Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Tarzan Escapes from 1936. This is continuing my quest to review all of the films directed by William Wellman, and this is not a film that he is officially credited with directing. He just did a few weeks on it at the request of Louis B. Mayer. I wanted to review all of the films directed by William Wellman, and although at the time when you're a studio director, sometimes you do a week for someone or a couple weeks or help develop it while they found a new director and so forth, there's various times a director would become involved with a project and then leave. Wellman did a few weeks on this film, from my understanding, and a lot of directors did. This was a big project for MGM at the time, where Wellman was in 1936, or in 1935 probably when they filmed this. A lot of directors did work on this because it was a major franchise for them. This is the third Tarzan film, but it is actually the first Tarzan film to be made after the Hays Code came into place. Every time I read about the early Tarzan films, I hear about how a lot of people are surprised because they're considered kid fare, but the beginning ones were such box office hits, not because of the action and because kids like Tarzan, but because of all these steamy love scenes that would happen in the jungle between Tarzan and Jane, and obviously they couldn't do that anymore because of the Hays Code. And the first two films, which came out in 1932 and 1934, were made pre-code, and this was the first post-code film, so they had to make a different kind of Tarzan film, and they decided to make this one more violent than before. Apparently you could get away with that under the Hays Code. So it was already a challenge and going to be a different Tarzan film, and they started making it under the direction of John Farrow, who directed and completed the first version of this film. And then when it screened for preview audiences, they really didn't like it. Many of the kids felt it was too scary. I think it involved vampire bats a lot more. I believe the plot was a lot different. I don't know the availability of that film. I actually couldn't find anything about what happened to that film, if it's lost, if there's a version of it on DVD, or what exactly happened to it. So they went back and shot the whole thing again because they felt this wouldn't go over as well as they wanted to. So they actually completely reshot the movie, or from my understanding they did, and replaced John Farrow. Now, John Farrow, kind of a bit of trivia, married Marie O'Sullivan while working on this film, and then they had 6 children, one of which was actually Mia Farrow. If anything good came out of him working on this film, I guess it was that he met his wife and lived happily ever after, and that worked out for him. But various directors are credited or uncredited with this. The director who does get the credit is Richard Thorpe, and also George P. Seitz worked on it, and James C. McKay. William Wellman also worked on this, and he loved working on it. He had a great time. Jane's 2 cousins have come to the jungle to find her because there is a will where her very rich uncle, who I'm assuming we've never heard of before, but left her a will, and he had $1 million, and half was going to go to a bug school or bug library or something, and the other half would go to her, but she had to leave the jungle and come back to civilized society to claim it. So they have tasked a group to go find Jane and Tarzan, and once they find her, the man who guided them to them wants to capture Tarzan after Jane is separated from him, to trap him and send him around on expedition because he would make a lot of money. And Jane's cousins are trying to bring her back to civilized society and have her claim the money, but also because they need the money to pay for school, and they're very broke apparently, but also because they want to see their cousin again. William Wellman really liked working on this film. The thing with William Wellman is he is a storyteller, and I looked up as much as I could on this film. I didn't find much about him working on it. In fact, I found nothing about him working on it other than what he said in the documentary series The Men Who Made the Movies. So it's a little weird to review a film for a director series, which I've been doing for William Wellman, and not actually know what parts he directed. There are certain parts I presume he did. There's a part where they're talking behind a panther cage, which looks very Wellman, and there's a part where Tarzan is freeing them from being tied up and you can't really see him. Wellman loved to obscure stuff from the camera and have you only see certain elements and just shoot a major action sequence almost hidden from the audience, like he's kind of playing with you. Those looked very much like Wellman to me. I don't know if he directed those. I don't know which parts he directed and which parts he didn't, so I can't really say. I know he had a lot of fun on this film, and this film looked like MGM made sure they made the best Tarzan movie they could. It's a fun little adventure film. It's not too steamy. There is one a very heavily implied sex scene, but that's really about it. Really, the reason I saw this was because of the great William Wellman story about it, how he really loved making this film, and he went to Louis B. Mayer and asked him if he could direct the next Tarzan picture because he had such a great time, and Louis B. Mayer said, "Don't you have any dignity? Isn't this beneath you?" and wouldn't let him do it, and the next film he made was A Star is Born, which I think worked out a lot better because A Star is Born is a classic and one of his best films. Kind of part of me would have loved to have seen just a solo William Wellman Tarzan film. He loves switching between genres and switching between different films. If you'd like to hear him talk about it, I recommend seeing The Men Who Made the Movies, which is on the Forbidden Hollywood box set that's devoted just to Wellman. That's one of the reasons I really liked Wellman, is that he loved doing this assignment job so much. He really wanted to direct a Tarzan film. And if this Tarzan franchise had been around now and William Wellman was a big director now, they would have him direct it. That would be a big deal. Big directors get these big franchises, but at the time they didn't really feel that way about it. I like seeing Johnny Weissmuller do his Tarzan roar, and there's a reason his Tarzan yell has lived on for so long, but it's not an amazing performance, but they definitely kind of inhabit the roles, him and Maureen O'Sullivan, so well. It feels like they know exactly what they're doing more than everyone else, but this is also their third attempt at doing so. This looked like a very studio-controlled film, and it worked out for it. It's not a horrible movie. It just looked like so controlled and studio-made. I've always kind of wanted to see one of the films that Wellman did kind of a week on, and now I have. This was the only one I really wanted to do just because of the infamous story behind it and how he loved working on it. It would have been interesting to have seen a Wellman Tarzan. This is, I guess, the closest we'll ever get to that. It shows how open he was to doing assignment stuff in the 30s. He's best remembered as being an assignment director who loved tackling different things. Tarzan Escapes was the one that had the best story behind it, and I think maybe I should have left it as just that great story. It's not a terrible movie. I didn't feel like while I was watching it, oh, I'm just doing this because I've told that story to a million people, and that's my favorite part of that documentary about Wellman, and probably one of my favorite parts of Wellman lore. It was an entertaining little 1936 film, but I don't think I'd ever watch it again. I have only seen this film and the first Tarzan film from 1932, and they're alright little fun jungle adventure films. I'm not in love with this character, and maybe I'm the wrong generation for Tarzan. I've heard some people say it didn't do well, but it seems to have done well since they kept making Tarzan movies at regular intervals. On some of the posters, they actually talk about how it took 2 years to produce. It doesn't really look like it took 2 years to produce, but I guess they spent so much money on it, they're kind of like, hey, we took like a long time to make this. Although now that doesn't seem like as long, because films can be in production for a very long time, but I guess in 1936 that was enough to sell a movie on. I don't understand how the director who got the credit, some say he just kind of got the credit and didn't do a lot, others say he did do a lot. I'm not sure who really directed most of this and how much Wellman did and all that, but it's always fun to kind of see a 1936 adventure film now and then. It was a fun little trifle of a movie, seeing a major studio in 1936 put kind of as much as they could into making a good little trifle of a movie. There's certain an entertaining quality to that. It's fun seeing a well-produced Hollywood film, and I can imagine at the time this was a fun movie to go see on a Friday night and then instantly forget about. And I think Tarzan Escapes will probably escape my memory, but it was fun to see what that Wellman story was all about. So if you have seen Tarzan Escapes and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And I don't think I'll be doing any more Wellman films that he kind of directed for a week or uncredited directed by Wellman or anything like that. I just wanted to do this one because of the story behind it, and now I have, and I will move on to films that are only directed by William Wellman. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.